What's going on, guys? Welcome to my channel. YouTubers want to talk, give a quick talk about Francis Ngannou's fight today. He was fighting for the PFL heavyweight championship against Renan Ferreira. Pretty much, I was interested in this fight. I haven't watched that many PFL fights. I don't know that much about PFL, that organization itself. I know they merged with Bellator. I used to be a very big fan of Bellator. Bellator had a lot of great fighters, a lot of good stories, and from what I understand, they merged PFL and Bellator. So a lot of the fighters of that Bellator had are in PFL now. So that's pretty much the extent of what I know about PFL, to be honest. Francis Ngannou, I've been following his career. I'm a big fan. He was the heavyweight champion in UFC. When his contract ran out, he decided not to stay, and he left the organization. He left UFC for a boxing career. His boxing career hasn't been that good, if we're honest. I mean, he hasn't won. He has had two high-profile fights where he has made a lot of money, but he did not win those fights. The first one, he fought Tyson Fury, and although that fight was competitive, Tyson Fury beat him in a decision. And then the next fight after that was against heavyweight Anthony Joshua, and Anthony Joshua knocked out Francis Ngannou. So a lot of MMA pundits, a lot of MMA fans of Francis Ngannou, we were bummed out, that he lost. And we're hoping that he comes back. I'm hoping that he comes back and wins a boxing fight. That'll be cool to see. But I did know that he was under contract with PFL to have MMA fights there, so it only made sense that such a dominant former UFC champion was gonna get to fight their heavyweight champion, which was Renan Ferreira at this time. So let's talk about the fight. The fight was very short, lasted just one round, not even the whole round. These two giants, it was called PFL Battle of the Giants, and these two giants, Ferreira is a huge guy. I had not seen many of his fights, if I'm honest, but he looked dangerous, he looked menacing. He towered Francis Ngannou, and Ngannou he's not a small guy. He's a big heavyweight, solid, muscular, looks like a superhero. And this guy, Ferreira, towered him. Huge, big guy. I think he's 6'8" or something, if I'm not mistaken. So these two started off, they squared, against each other. They landed some good, significant leg kicks. Ferreira landed, Ngannou landed. They both squared off, they threw some punches. But they were both measured, very measured in their approach, very tactical, trying to keep their cool against each other. And when Ferreira finally let his hands go a little bit, Francis Ngannou did a double leg on him and took him down. And Francis Ngannou, if he won his fight via wrestling, that his last fight that he had in UFC, and so he has that wrestling tool now, and he's a pretty good takedown guy so far, and Ferreira looked out of his element. He was not able to mount any takedown defense, any effective takedown defense, and he did threaten Ngannou with triangle, leg triangle, but Ngannou, just he kept his composure. He was very calm. He was very smart. His fight IQ was there. He got out of that jiu-jitsu attempt, and then he got on top, behind Ferreira, and just started letting his hands go. And when Ngannou lets his hands go, you're in a world of trouble. And he effectively knocked out Ferreira, laid him out, and the fight was stopped, and we have a new PFL champion. It was a short fight, not much to say about it, except that, Ngannou looked great. He looked great. He looked very calculating in there, thoughtful, smart. You could tell that Ngannou, Ngannou's MMA game is top notch at this point, and he looked a little bit solemn, a little bit kind of, for lack of a better term, bored in the build-up of the fight. And it was only later that I learned that Ngannou suffered a very personal loss. His son, I think he lost his son, and I don't know the details. So, this comeback for him to MMA, it was very emotional for that reason alone. When I don't even want to imagine, but when one of your kids dies, that just gotta hit you hard. That's like the lowest blow. That's the hardest blow life could ever give to you, in my opinion. So, it's something that Ngannou had to deal with, train for this fight, but I'm sure it's very hard to train and focus on an opponent when something that personal, a personal tragedy like that happens. And you could see the emotion. He started crying after the fight, after winning. He started crying. His team, they were hugging each other. So it was a very emotional thing. It was I did not know about that personal loss that Ngannou had. So I'm sure there were a lot of emotions, and he dedicated this fight to his late son. So, but it was a good fight, and I'm glad that Francis is back in the winning column. In MMA, he's a top dog, and I'm just sorry that he's not in UFC anymore, where he could be fighting those heavyweights over there. But nonetheless, doesn't take away of a great win for Francis Ngannou. I want to see what's next for him. Hopefully PFL manages to get some worthy opponents for him to fight. That's the thing with heavyweights. As far as other promotions that are not UFC, they always had trouble with heavyweight rosters. They're very they're not deep. It's not even deep in UFC if you think about it. So yeah, we'll see what's up with that. Just happy to see Francis Ngannou back in the win column, like I said. Looking forward to what's next for him, and looking forward to his boxing career again. Also, I hope he comes back and he also gets a win there. And but I'm glad for the guy that he's fulfilling his goals, and he's the PFL's heavyweight champion now, and he's making that money, which is something that he always aimed for, to make more money. He always felt kind of restricted with the UFC contracts, and let's face it, UFC contracts tend to be restrictive because they like to own people. UFC likes to own people. They like to own fighters, and they don't let fighters venture into the boxing sport. The only exception they made was back then when Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather, and but that was about it. That was an exception. It was a money-making thing. McGregor was a high commodity at the time. He was a money maker, so it made sense back then. But they're not in the business of letting their fighters venture into boxing because of the very thing that happened to Ngannou. That if they lose that UFC luster, where UFC likes to build their fighters as the best in the world, but they're not gonna be the best in the world if they get beat in boxing. So I think that's where the mentality comes from them, and I understand it. But still, I think what Francis did to cut those UFC ties and head into the unknown and do his own thing. And I'm glad for the guy. I'm glad for the guy, even though his boxing career hasn't been that successful up to this point. He has made money, and he has done what he wanted to do. And in life, you gotta do what you wanna do, because when you're in your deathbed later on, you don't wanna have regrets, you know. So I'm glad for Francis Ngannou that he's back in the winning column. Thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe to my channel. I need subscribers. Give me likes, dislikes. Some comments will be nice. I always love to interact with you guys. Thank you. Peace.